Radhe Radhe, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Dandavat Pranam.
Welcome to Sri Sri Radha Vinod Bihari Temple, Mandir, Gopinath Bhavan, Sri Vrindavan Dham. Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Pan Gauri Guruvaranga ki jai, Pati Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Shachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai, Radha Raman Ju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Pujpad Bhakti Kamal Govind Goswami Maharaja ki jai, Tadiya Tiro Bhav Maha Mahotsav ki jai, Madhav Titi Ekadashi ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So we will begin with Mangalacharan, page 1 of this book, Shri Gauriya Giti Guccha, Vandeham, Shri Guru, Shri Yuta Padakamalam, D-A-N-D-E, apostrophe, H-A-M, Vandeham.
Saraswati Namine
वर्षभारती देवी दैहिकाय कृपाभये कृष्ण सम्बन्ध विज्ञान दैवे ब्रह्मणे नमः माधुर्योज्ज्वल प्रेमाढ्यं श्रीरूपानुग भक्तिगा श्रीगौर करुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनपालिने रूपानुगं विनुभाव सिद्धान्तमन्तहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्भारसम्बोधे पदं भुजायते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगम्बराय ते गौराविर्भावभूमे स्वं निर्देष्टा सजनप्रिया वैष्णवः सर्वभौमश्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महामदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जयतां सुरतो पङ्गो मम मन्दं मतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदं भोजो राधामदनमोहनो दिव्यवृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमदो श्रीमद्रत्नागारसिंहासनस्थो श्रीराधा श्रीरगोविन्ददेवो प्रेष्ठानिधि सेव्यमानस्मरामि श्रीमन्द्रसरसारम्भे वंशिवत्तत्ततस्थितः कर्षन्मेरुस्वरैर्गोपी गोपीनाथश्रीयेसुनः वृन्दायै तुलसीदेव्यै प्रियायै केशवस्य च कृष्णभक्तिप्रदे देवी सत्यवत्यै नमो नमः पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम् जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहाकामाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयकैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दं मुनिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनं सर्वात्मासपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् हरे नाम हरे नामेव केवलम् करुणस्येव नस्येव नस्येव प्रति Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya, page 32 in the little songbook. Starts with Gurudev Kripa. Gurudev, Krpabindu.
What note?
Amarji.
Isn't that this, right?
That's beautiful.
One second.
Dandavat pranam all Vaishnavas. Thank you, Jiva Pavana Prabhu, for posting the lyrics. If anyone is new to the page, just so you know, if you keep scrolling down to the bottom, you'll find the name Jiva Pavana Prabhu, and he posts lyrics. You can see it in all capitals, and so that you can join us. If you don't have a songbook, you can just click on that, and you can join us with the kirtan. And every now and then he adds little bits of nectar, so always search.
So it's 8. Hey Baro Kurunakoro. On that one?
His picture's up there. You should bring it down maybe.
On that one, can you write T and then G? Because so the Tom put up in G. Up here? Ah, there it is.
It's with his glasses. You can just put him next to Gurudev there. Will he cover him?
No, here.
It might fall down.
You just put the bell down. Okay?
Okay, thank you. So TG next to Gurudev Kripavindu.
Yeah, it's a G. And T means Tampura.
So E Bada Karuna Koro, page 44, starts with E-I-B-A-R-A. And again, keep scrolling down and look for Jivapavana Prabhu's name and you'll find the lyrics to the bhajans. Thank you so much, Jivapavana Prabhu, for your seva. Dandavat Pranam. We were in the dust today.
True.
French dust.
जय अनिलो प्रेम धन करुणा प्रचुर।
Jay Anilo starts with J-E, right?
J-E. Page 99.
J-E and A-N-I-L-O. Jay Anilo, page 99. And if you don't have the songbook, just keep scrolling down to the bottom of the page, and Jiva Prabhu mercifully always adds so we can all join in kirtan and bhajans together. Shuddha Bhakata Subi, page 108. What page is Shuddha Bhakata? Shatakoti Gopis, 216. 216.
Exactly half.
Page 216.
Is that okay? Paramo
So I know there was a request for Jai Radhe Jai Krishna Govinda, but maybe we can do that tomorrow, because today we're trying to do the bhajans that we know that Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj had some deep attachment to, because it's his day. So then tomorrow we'll be able to do that. I'll try to remember page 154, but you can also remind us tomorrow. Which one? If you can give us time to look. Kishori, tell us which one.
Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan.
You have to give a little time. Nadia Godrume.
Page 163.
a question by our very special dear friend Lord Unidas. He's asking, is the extra nadia at the beginning removed because it is not the proper Gaudiya Kirtan style?
What do you mean the extra nadia? I mean nadia.
No, it was just that I couldn't follow.
We're not professional musicians.
I'm not good enough to do it.
I know people think we are because we've made CDs. Gurudev encouraged us to do that. We just have picked up what we learned in front of Gurudev. And when we suggested to him once that maybe we can take some lessons, that was so that we could learn how to breathe, so that we wouldn't lose our voices every week. Gurudev said, what you know now is good enough. So Gurudev wasn't interested in any...
He said, actually, you can teach your singing teacher.
Didn't want to say that. He said, you can teach him. But the mood of it was that we shouldn't practice that thing to make the presentation. Like, okay, here's my punchline, I'm going to practice it, polish it for myself. Because then it ends up being a show instead of an act of devotion or service. So our Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada said, we should not make a show, but rather the devotion in the heart should be in such a way that it will inspire devotion in the heart of the audience for Krishna. He didn't want us to be making shows. So whatever abilities that we may have developed, this is natural and through the mercy of Guru and Vaishnavas. It's not a practiced or...
Well, no, he's saying that he heard it was a Babaji style, that's why. So
you know, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur wrote many bhajans in what are known as Baul Sangeet. And those bhajans were for a particular kind of person. It was to awaken them also. So he was bringing different kinds of styles of bhajans that would be able to influence different sectors of the population toward the pure conceptions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if it was necessary to utilize some of those styles to bring about a feeling of camaraderie, where, oh yeah, I know that style, let me then go from there toward Krishna. Bhaktivedanta Thakur understood the necessity and how to implement everything in the service of Krishna. And we see that our Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada carried that mood far and wide. Yeah. Gauranga tumi more doyana chari ho. Page
78 starts with Gauranga, Gauranga, then Tumi, Gauranga tumi more. Page 78.
Vaisnava Ranga Parihas. In the tune that we heard him sing, Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj.
And it starts on page 124, BANDHU Bandhu Sange.
What page is it?
Page 124. And if you don't have a book, keep scrolling to the bottom and you'll see Jiva Bhavana Prabhu is posting the lyrics so you can also join.
जय राधे जय जय मात बधाए थे Arnav pages 341 जय राधे जय जय माधव बधाए थे
जय राधे जय जय माधव
जय राधे जय जय माधव
Krishna
Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Param Gauri Gurupada ki jai, Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Sachinandana Gaur Hari ki jai, Radha Vinodihari ki jai, Radha Manju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Srimad Bhakti Ekadashi ki jai, Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Tadiya Tirubha Mahamahotsav ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. गुरुवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदान्त नारायण नित्यनामिने नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम्. First of all, I offer my Dandavat Pranam thousands of times with the dust of the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, astottara Shri Srimad Sri Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same thousands of Dandavat Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, astottara Shri Srimad Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And on this day, the occasion of the disappearance anniversary of Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj, I offer my Dandavat Pranam thousands of times in the dust of his lotus feet, and also to all Vaishnavas past, present and future, including those who are present with us today. I offer my Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Do you have anything on the floor over there that...
It's pouring rain.
Yeah, just that might get flooded because the roof is in a compromised position now? Okay, just checking. They're redoing the roof on her room next door, so it's raining very hard right now.
It may be that we have to change connections at some point, so bear with us just in case.
We apologize in advance if anything does go amiss. So today we are observing here in Vrindavan Dham Shri Ekadashi, Kamika Ekadashi, Madhavtiti Ekadashi Ki Jai. And we are also observing the anniversary of the disappearance from our vision of Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj. So, Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Tadiya Tirubha Mahamahotsav Ki Jai. I'll just speak very quickly about Ekadashi and its connection. You know the bhajan we chanted earlier, Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajana Anukul Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Prema Lati Karmul Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani Jatani Palana Kori Krishna Vasati Vasati Bori Parama Adare Bori. So this is glorifying all things which are favorable for bhakti. And on this day, Ekadashi, it is said that whatever we do that is favorable for bhakti, this is multiplied thousands of times. What is the most favorable thing for bhakti? Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajana Anuku. What is favorable for bhajan? Is to take shelter of the foot dust of the pure devotees of the Lord. And Bhakata Seva, to serve these personalities, these pure devotees. This will grant the highest perfection, Paramasiddhi. Prema Latikara Mu, In fact, serving these devotees is the root cause of Krishna Prema manifesting. The latika, or the creeper of devotions, manifestation is by taking shelter of and serving the pure devotees of the Lord. So one of the most powerful and beneficial things one can do on Ekadashi is to glorify the Supreme Lord. And what is even more pleasing to Him? When you are glorifying His pure devotees. So today we will remember the glories sung and the pastimes and the teachings of Pujapad Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj, who touched our hearts very deeply, although we only had a very little bit of time with him. Still, he kind of came in very quickly and did something inside of our hearts, and we feel very fortunate that we were able to meet him. I remember we had heard about him from a couple of devotees, how nice he was, how sweet he was, how gentle he was. But we weren't necessarily inclined to go anywhere to hear specifically. But we had come to Kartik a couple years after there was some great difficulty within our Sangha. And I was feeling like, what am I doing here? I was sitting in our room thinking, what am I doing here? I'm not going on parikrama. I don't feel like comfortable in that situation. I'm just sitting in my room. This is not really being in Vrindavan. One should be in Vrindavan under the guidance of Vaishnavas, not just sitting. Nowadays we're sitting, but we are doing our Guru Seva, which Gurudeva has ordered us, and we are taking shelter of Shastriya Sadhu Sangha, and as often as possible, other Vaishnavas, which we can avail ourselves of their Harikatha via the medium of the internet, which is now the Brihad Mridanga. If we choose to utilize it that way, it is the big, loud Mridanga. We can use it for Krishna, or we can use it to remind people of Maya or nonsense. If we use it for Krishna, it is a very beautiful and powerful medium, which I assure all of you that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and all of our Guru Varga would utilize it to the maximum for spreading Krishna consciousness. So, we were sitting in our room, and one very nice devotee who resides in England, his name is Balabhadra Das. Dhanava Pranam. I hope you're there.
He is there.
Right. So he came knocking on our door. And this was a few days into Kartik. I was just sitting there feeling like, what am I doing here? I'm not doing anything productive. He came knocking on our door. You know, remember I talked to you previously about Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj? I was like, yeah, I remember. He's like, well, he's going to be giving Harikatha, speaking. He's just down the road. Do you want to come and see him? And we were like, okay. He's like, yeah, come on, let's do this. So Sudevi and I were like, all right, well, at least we have something to do. Let's go. So we got ready, and we went with Balabhadra, and he brought us to go see Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj, who had just begun speaking on Sri Radha Rasa Shuddhanidhi, which is the beautiful glories of Srimati Radhika, given by Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, the uncle of Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Guru. So we went with Balabhadra, we arrived there, and amazingly, so many of our senior Vaishnavas were present there in front of Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj, listening with great attention and eagerness as he was speaking. And we were quite surprised. So many faces that we recognized. The people, devotees who have been practicing for many years, who are senior to us in terms of when they came to Gurudev by many years. And they were sitting in front of Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj. And he was interacting with them in a very sweet, beautiful, intimate, and humble way. If anyone had any question or even any challenge, he would accept it, and he may even adjust. And we were seeing how he was interacting with the devotees, and how as he was speaking, he would spontaneously break out into Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. And we were like, Gurudev said that you can't hear these kind of things in other places, but we're hearing it here. How is this possible? We didn't know much about him at the time. All we knew is that many devotees who we had so much affection for were totally overwhelmed by his sweetness, by his affection, by his kindness, by his gentleness, and by his accessibility. And we felt that immediately upon meeting him, upon being in his presence. So much sweetness, so much kindness, affection, and care. So I would like to invite Sudevi to come and speak something about him, because let's just say, Gurudev, right from the beginning, told me that I should be strong like her, bold like her, and that I should follow her. Many times, oh, you should follow your wife, you should follow your wife. Because somehow she has a knack, a feeling for following and coming close to sadhus. So Srila Gurudev encouraged me like this, and somehow she developed also a very keen feeling of affection for this Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj. And I was just kind of watching, like, what's going on? I guess I should be here. So my heart was following also, but she was able to detect the sweetness of this Vaisnava and somehow come close. And by this, I was also able to come close. So I'd like to request her to come and speak something about him first. And if there are any remnants later, then I will take those remnants. Hare Krishna. Let me just fix the mic for you.
Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I wanted to say something about this most extraordinary Vaishnava, and today, honestly, I don't normally do it like this, but I kept looking and seeing if Balabhadra Prabhu was going to come on today, because he was very, very, as you just heard, instrumental in the melting of our hearts by introducing us to a Vaishnava, to a saint. Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj explains that these days are so important for us. The days of the Vaishnavas, the days of Krishna, Ekadashi, Janmashtami. But for us, really in particular, Vaishnavas, who are the mercy of Krishna descending in this world for our benefit, to remember them, to contemplate their love and affection for us, Baddha Jivas, and how they've come to help remove us from this material entanglement, is the most auspicious event. And I remember he would say, all our acharyas say there's no difference between the appearance or disappearance. It is the same, like two different sides of the same coin, because both cause us to call out and remember Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas. I remember when Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj left this world, and we were in a community of devotees, and we went to them and we said, we have to honor this Vaishnava tonight. He just left. And they actually, many of them said, oh, well, we have a football game, and so it's kind of an important game, we can't cancel it. And so they didn't come to the program. And I remember feeling like a thorn in my heart. And how much of a thorn would it be for Krishna when he sends his near and dear ones and we don't honor them and remember them on their days. If I could feel such a thing and not forget it, every disappearance day, I'm brought back to that day and to where there were only just a few of the ladies who came to hear. And it was so sweet, but it was so painful. I've never forgotten that. And so when Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj stressed the importance of these days, I have a semblance of understanding of mamata, of mineness, possessiveness. You didn't come to hear about my person? That person who touched my heart, who gave me hope, who gave me shelter? You want to hear what I have to say, but you don't want to honor that person who was nourishing me, oh, my heart is broken. So on these days, it is so important for us to remember them. When Srila Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj entered our hearts, it was really surprising because we had met him only a couple of times. And then he went traveling. But then he found out that we had some differences of opinion with one group that was going to be gathering for his appearance festival, because he was coming back to Vrindavan. And he heard that we're not getting along with this group. It was a group that was saying, oh, Prabhupada is not in Madhurya Bhav, he is not in Manjari Bhav, he is in Sakya Bhav. This was against the teachings of our Gurudev. So Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj, he called us on the phone. Kishori Mohan Prabhu picks up the phone and he's like, "Kya baat kare?"
No, go back.
Whatever you say. I don't know Hindi.
Good enough.
But he's like, who is this? And he says it with this like deep Indian kind of voice. So he's like, who is this? And he's like, oh, it's Govinda Maharaj. And all of a sudden I'm looking at Kishore and he's looking at me and he's going, Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj? And Maharaj is like, yes, my boy, it is me. And we're just like, Dandava Pranam Maharaj, how did you get our number? We were so surprised. He said, I heard you may not come to my birthday. And it was also Basant Panchami, it's the day of Vishnupriya, it's a very holy day. But he was also doing the inauguration of his temple. And he was also doing the installation of his guru's Pushpa Samadhi. So it was a very big day for him. And in the evening, he was having a celebration with only his near and dear for his birthday. But in the afternoon, he was having a huge festival. And we were like, oh, we don't want to hear from those who claim to be followers of our Gurudev, but are preaching opposite of what he preached for his entire life. How can we go and hear from such persons? It will contaminate our hearts. And Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj said, don't worry. He said, I will make all the arrangements. You only stay close to me. I will make the arrangement. And we were saying, oh Maharaj, we're not sure. He said, if you don't come to my birthday, if you don't come to the installation, then I'm boycotting the whole thing and I'm not coming. And then he said, do you love me? And we were like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I love you. And then he asked, do you love me? I love you so much. Do you love me? And we were like, yes. And then he said, then you will come. And then the conversation was done. And so we went that day. And he arranged that those who were speaking would speak at the temple, at Radhagokulananda Mandir, actually. And he said, they will all go there, they will speak and take prasadam, you stay here with me. And so we did that, and we did kirtan, and we watched him giving initiation in the ear, giving diksha in the ear of Krishna Kishore. It was so beautiful, the fire was going, kirtan was going on. And he was chanting all the mantras in Krishna Kishore's right ear. Such a beautiful sight. That night, if you would have seen Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj, his body was very, very frail. And he could barely walk, he couldn't sit easily. He had all sorts of different kinds of health difficulties. But that night, when he installed his Thakurji, he was jumping up and down and dancing with his arms in the air and spinning around. And then he would hold on to the wall. And then again he would dance and spin and dance. It was one of the most astonishingly beautiful sights I have ever seen. And then we did arti to him. And so then something kind of extraordinary happened. We started to listen to his Harikatha more and more. And it was when we were during the time of Kartik, we were going and hearing Radharasa Shuddhanidhi. And every evening he would sing one kirtan. Hey Govinda Rako Sharana Abto Jivana Hari. So he would sing this kirtan, and it's actually for Dwarka Krishna. And it's talking about Draupadi and Krishna coming and saving her. So one day I went to him and I said, Maharaj, I don't understand something. We're in Vrindavan. It's the month of Kartik. And you are speaking Radha Rasa Shuddha Nidhi. But then you're singing this bhajan in Dwarka Bhav. And I said, I can't get my mind around it. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to enter this mood that you have. I don't understand you. And he looked at me and he said, oh, yes. And then he began to tell how at one point in his life, some persons were coming to kill him. And as he was telling us the story, he was weeping and weeping. And he said, and he started speaking of our Gurudev. He said, at that time, Narayan Maharaj, he saved me. He saved me. And he said, and when I remember this kirtan, I remember this, how the Lord saved me. And then he said, just like Draupadi, what did Krishna do? Something so extraordinary. We hear that Krishna descends from time to time, and it's so many times predicted in different shastras. But all the time in his Harikatha, he would say, Sadi Avatar. He came in the sari, as a sari of Draupadi to protect her when she let go in full Sharanagati and called out, Hey Krishna Rako Sharana, I am yours. Hey Govinda, please protect me. Please, you protect me. I'm taking shelter of you. He said, so in that mood, I remember this kirtan. Then 2 days later, we were sitting in our room and talking, and we get a phone call, and it's an emergency. It's Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj. Immediately, come to my mat, come to my temple. I need you to come immediately.
His temple's just near Radha Gokulananda.
It's right before Radha Gokulananda and then Radharaman Mandir. So it's not so far from us. So we went running past Nidhuvan and then went in this little gully and went to his mandir. And when we went in his room, first he was sitting down taking prasad. And one 10, 11-year-old girl, Purnima, she had cooked for Maharaj. Just like our Gurudev, when he was performing his departure Leela from our manifest vision in this world, he couldn't take those kinds of foods that his sevaks were used to feeding him. He had to take like our sort of white people kind of food, like Angrejiwala, like Western food. Yeah. What was that?
Health food.
It was health food.
Quinoa,
you know,
soup.
Quinoa, soup, all those kinds of things that the Indian devotees were like, where's the mustard oil and where's the chili and where's this and that? So they didn't know what to do, so they engaged us in cooking for Gurudev. And they called me Soup Devi and Kishori Mohan Prabhu, Kitchen Mohan Prabhu. So we saw that this very young little Kishori girl was cooking for him. And he was saying, oh, my health is like this, and my darling doctor, she is cooking for me. And then from his own plate, as he was taking prasad, he was taking it off of his plate and giving it to us. And he gave us like a cup and put it in, and we were just trying to like sit with him. And then he was looking at us and he's saying, take it, eat it, let's take prasad together. He was so kind and affectionate. So he said, for so many nights I've been thinking, you asked me this question and I was thinking, yes, why? Why am I singing this and not in Braja Bhav? Why am I not singing in the mood of this Vrindavan? And then he said, so I couldn't sleep. All night I couldn't sleep and I wrote one bhajan in the same tune, but I wrote a bhajan. And then he collected so many different pieces of paper. You could see that every time he had this enthusiasm or inspiration, he would write it down.
And it was all like different books. Different
books and things, and he had his glasses on. Later I'll show you his glasses and his picture. But then he started...
Can we show the picture now so people can see?
He started teaching us his own bhajan that he wrote in the mood of Vrindavan and of Manjari Bhav.
Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj. There you go.
And then I said, so he had us write it in my book. And he said, tonight I want you to sing it. Let's begin singing it. And we said, okay. And then I said, Maharaj, will you sign your name? And he said, in your book? And I said, yes, because I collect nectar. So I follow Vichitra Didi. I'm a follower of her. I'm a nectar collector. So she has notebooks full of nectar. And so then I started following the same. I collected a lot of her nectar. And so I asked him, will you sign this book where your bhajan is? And he said, where should I sign? I said, Maharaj, write the whole book. And he laughed. And on the opposite page of his own bhajan, he wrote, oh, my Supreme Lord, you are the rainbow after every storm of my life. And every time we see a storm coming, or we see a rainbow, one day we were going to the Mind Center, wasn't it?
Balabhadra's program that he arranged.
In London. And it was raining and everything. And then there was a rainbow, and we just remembered, oh, my Supreme Lord. And then he asked, do you understand the meaning? In life, there will be so many difficulties, so many challenges that you will have to endure. Storms are horrible. There's thunder and lightning. Sometimes ice is falling too. These things are happening, and we will have to endure so much. And he said, but when you are strong and holding the feet of Hari, Guru and Vaisnava, when you are holding on to the shelter of Krishna, of his mercy, then you will see that that rainbow, that storm is a rainbow, means it is the gift of Krishna. You will come out and you will see, oh, look at how much mercy. One Vaishnava said, if you have no problems in your life, and you don't have any difficulties, how will you see all the different ways that Guru and Krishna are saving you? How will you understand? So when we go through so many difficulties, he said, you will come out of that storm and see that Krishna is the rainbow at the end of that storm. So then he signed his name, Bhakti Kamo Govinda Maharaj. So one day I went to him and I said, Maharaj, we've been fighting this other group that is turning against our Gurudev, and he's turning against our Guru Parampara. They are saying that our Srila Prabhupada is not in the mood of his Gurudev, and basically he is not Rupanuga. If you read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and you read the words of our Vaishnava Acharyas explaining what is Madhurya Bhav, and especially what is a maidservant, no male person can enter. Even Gurudev showed how Giriraj is actually Girirani, the heart of Srimati Radhika manifested, because no male can be there when Srimati Radhika and Krishna meet. What to speak of any male? Even her own Sakhis cannot enter that place. What?
He told us that.
Bhakti, yes. He said, Nivrita
Nikunja.
He said, in there, never and never. He said, it cannot be. And he said, surely he is in our line, and he is Rupanuga. He is the maidservant of Srimati Radhika. He said, you never mind what others are saying. He said, you should see like this. There are so many fruit stalls out there, outside. And you also have your own fruit stall. You have so many sweet mangoes, so fragrant and beautiful. Some, their fruit is bitter. Some, their fruit is a little bit ripe, but half unripe. Not so nice, very sour. Some fruits are very rotten. He said, you don't need to point out, look at those rotten mangoes, look at these unripe mangoes. He said, you go to the marketplace and you call out loudly, just see how these mangoes are so fragrant and sweet. Come and take and taste the sweetness of my mangoes, my sweet fruits that my Guru Varg have given me. He said, we don't follow these things. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. We follow the line, the words of our Gurudev. We do not manufacture. And he said, those that are superimposing like this, he said, it is some kind of dominance. We do not have to follow this kind. Did we run out of power?
I don't know. I had it plugged in earlier. Strange.
I don't need a mic.
She doesn't, but it just...
We do not have to follow this type of thing. So Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj stopped my heart of being filled with anger and trying to run out and fight and fight. He told us, don't do that. Don't waste your time. Your Gurudev is giving you everything. And then he said, even if there was then another thing about the Swarup of the Jiva. And we asked him questions on that. And he told us how his mood is in the same line with Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Goswami Maharaj, our Param Gurudev, our Gurudev. He said, my heart is somewhat crooked, like Krishna. My line is somewhat crooked. He said, I am also following this. I am following this mood. He said, if I ever say anything different from your Gurudev, don't listen to me. You listen to your Gurudev.
Yeah.
This is shiksha. Somebody who's coming to increase the moods of nishta, of conviction in your own Gurudev. He was so strong on that point. And he was able to actually speak. His disciples told us, he never speaks these kind of high things generally. He's very, very guarded and careful, and he speaks general. But now that you all, the disciples of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj are coming, now he's speaking these deeper things, and we're seeing our Gurudev, how he is opening up his heart in front of you. And we were astonished by that. He knew that Gurudev had created a platform in us where he could open up and show us the jewels of his heart. His guru, his Diksha Guru was Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, one of the last disciples of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He took Harinam from him, and he took Diksha elsewhere. But his Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj's Shiksha Guru, actually he was the personal sevak of Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj for many, many years. And it is said that Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj was very, very strong.
He told us that.
He told us that. And that he could only keep a servant for a very short time. And one of the instructions, was it our Gurudev or Prabhupada?
He met with our Srila Prabhupada in Hyderabad.
So our Srila Prabhupada told him one thing. He said, whatever you do, you serve him. You stay with him and you serve him. And he said, so I did that. And because of that, I became so strong. Externally, you would see that he was so soft. Oh, he would immediately just begin to weep. If he saw any young boy having a hard time, he would take them on his lap and kiss their head and hug them and say, don't worry, don't worry. I will give you so much seva. Come and do kirtan in the mat. Come and worship Thakurji. Come and serve and clean. Come and clean the mat and do seva, and your heart will be cleansed of all of your pain. And he would just give so much affection. He said, when any elder kisses the head of any young person, it means I'm blessing you, I'm blessing you. So he would kiss their heads. I remember he kissed Kishori Mohan Prabhu's head one time. I thought, oh, he's blessing him. So when he would glorify seva, he would talk about seva being the highest. He would say, so many come to Vrindavan. And they come here and they think, oh, I should retain a maid because I need them to wash my clothes and cut my vegetables and cook my food. They need to sweep my house and do all of my household chores so I can do bhajan. And he said, but this isn't the mood of Braj. The mood here, especially in Sevakunj, he said, where we are sitting right now is the center of the universe. He said, the Queen of England, she has no power, but our Queen is Srimati Radhika Thakurani. How much power does she have? Even Krishna is standing outside of Sevakunj begging, please give me entrance. Please allow me to do any seva. He said one day Krishna entered into Sevakunj and all Sakhis were there. Srimati Radhika was sitting there as the queen. And Lalita Vishaka was there, all Manjaris were there. And Lalita Sakhi looked at Krishna and said, hey, what do you want? Krishna became humble. He said, oh, I also want some seva. Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj said that Lalita Sakhi is the prime minister. So she has to be very, very tricky. So immediately she put a sign in front of Krishna that said, no vacancy. There is no vacancy here. Srimati Radhika was sitting there, and in front, no vacancy. There's no position for you here. Krishna said, oh, please, give me even the most menial seva. I will just sweep her kunja here. Let me be her sweeper. Lalita Sakhi said, oh, you think sweeping is a small thing? You think it's a lesser thing? To sweep my Sakhi's kunja? This is the highest seva. And then Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj began to glorify seva and seva in the Holy Dham, and explained to us that once one Vaisnava in Govardhan who had been sweeping the path for so many years, his broom finally broke. And he went asking different Vaishnavas, what do I do? What do I do with this broom now that it's no longer of use? And they said, toss it in the garbage, throw it on the street. He said, how can I do it? It's done so much seva. Here on the banks of Radhakund and Shamakund, it swept all the places of Govardhan. He said, what did that Vaishnava do? He put that broom into samadhi. He said he made a samadhi for that broom. So then he went back to the Leela and said, so Lalita Sakhi was saying, you think it's such a cheap, ordinary thing? Krishna said, oh, forgive me. I've made a mistake. What can I do? Anything. Give me any seva. I'm praying to you. In his mind, Krishna was thinking, why is Lalita Sakhi always so harsh to me? She never lets me near Srimati Radhika. Always she's so harsh. Somehow or other, I have to do something to break this mood. So then Lalita Sakhi said, oh, there's one thing. There's one thing that you can do. It is a very, very, very low class thing though. Krishna said anything, whatever it is. He said, oh, what you need to do is to go and beat a drum and walk through all of Vrindavan, all of Braj, and call out. Back then they didn't have microphones. Now people will go on a rickshaw and they speak on a microphone, or they have like a recording going over and over, just advertising things. But she said, Krishna, you will have to beat a drum very loudly and walk through all of the gullies, including Chandravali, Padmas, through all other Sakhi's gullies, wherever they are, and you have to call out, Srimati Radhika is the queen of Vrindavan and I am only her menial servant. Krishna said, I can do that. I can do it. Give me this seva. So then Krishna took a drum, and all day he went through all of the gullies and all of the villages, and he called out, Srimati Radhika is the queen of Vrindavan, and I am only her menial sevak. Finally, when it started to become a little later, he went back. And again, there was the whole assembly of Sakhis and Manjaris, and Srimati Radhika was sitting there, the queen of Vrindavan. Lalita Sakhi was sitting down a little bit next to Srimati Radhika watching Krishna. Krishna came in and everyone was on a seat. Lalita Sakhi said, there's no seat for you. You have to sit on the dust. You have to sit on the dirt. Krishna became so happy. Oh, I get the foot dust of Srimati Radhika. And because there's no seat, I can get very close to her. In his heart, he was only thinking, how can I attain the feet of Srimati Radhika? So Krishna, very tricky. He said he took his flute, and without anyone seeing, he put it very carefully under Lalita Sakhi's skirt as she was sitting down. It was flared, and he hid his flute under her skirt. At that time, he said, oh, I did my seva today. I did everything you told me, but something very bad happened. All were looking, oh, something bad happened. What? Krishna said, oh, some thief came and stole my greatest treasure. Oh, a thief? What thief? What treasure is there that they stole? Krishna said, a thief stole my flute. Oh, all the manjaris, all the Sakhis began clapping and laughing. Oh, bamboo? Bamboo, you're worried to go? Go into the forest and pick another piece of bamboo. No problem. Krishna said, no, you don't understand. This flute, it's so powerful. It can even call you. It can call my Swamini. It is my greatest treasure. Without it, I will die. I have to have it, and I know one of you is the thief. Everyone thought, us? We don't need your bamboo. We don't want any piece of bamboo. You can have it. We wouldn't steal it. Krishna said, no, I don't believe it. I know one of you are the thieves. Lalita Sakhi said, okay, how can we prove to you that we're not the thieves? Krishna said, you should have all stand up and shake out their skirts so I can see surely none of them are hiding it. Lalita Sakhi started to laugh. Okay, everybody do it. So everybody stood up and were laughing and were shaking their skirts. Oh, look, there is no bamboo here. And Krishna was only looking at one particular gopi, and that was Lalita Sakhi. She was still sitting down looking at him. And Krishna looked and said, no, Lalita Sakhi said, hey, why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me with suspicion? He said, you also didn't stand. I'm Prime Minister. I don't need to stand. Why should I stand? I'm next to the Queen. I'm the Prime Minister. I don't need to stand. Krishna said, I won't believe it until you also stand. And Lalita Sakhi began to fight. At that time, Srimati Radhika said, oh, Sakhi, if I also stand, will you stand? And then Srimati Lalita Sakhi, she said, okay, if you do, then also I will. So then at the same time, they both stood up, and everyone saw that under the Prime Minister's skirt, a flute fell out. Everyone started laughing and clapping. Oh, look at our Prime Minister is the thief. Lalita Sakhi is the thief. But at that time, Krishna had only one pointed vision for one thing. As Srimati Radhika was shaking out her skirt, he was only thinking, Dehi padapalavam udaram, Hey Devi Radhike, please give me the dust of your lotus feet. Please let me take your feet on my heart. And at that time, he attained the feet of Srimati Radhika. So he began to explain to us the necessity of coming to the Dham with a service mood, not to come here to think I should enjoy. So many times people come to the Dham and they say, oh, there's so much pollution and there's no trees and where are the peacocks and blah, 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 and they just complain. Why? Our acharyas have told us that those who are seers of the truth, they see that Krishna's Leela is going on everywhere. But us, we have a Mayat covering. Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj said it doesn't matter if you have eyes or if you are blind, because either way we see nothing. So our mood is that, oh, I want to come here and enjoy Jamuna. I want to see her crystal clear waters and lotus flowers. And I want to enjoy the sound of the cuckoos and the peacocks and the parrots. And I want to enjoy this and that. This is the place of Krishna's enjoyment. And all have come here to serve. And even Krishna himself. In Dwarka, in Mathura, there Krishna can be served. But here, especially in Braj Mandal, but especially in Vrindavan and Govardhan, this is the speciality of this place, that this will grant us service to Srimati Radhika, where Krishna himself comes and begs for that kind of mercy. Dehi padapalavam udaram kripa kataksha bhajanam. Give me your merciful sidelong glance. Please give me the service of your lotus feet. So I could go on and on. Don't you want to say something?
Keep going. You're saying a lot of the things that I wanted to say, but much better than I can.
So one time when Srila Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj was giving class, he said, when doing bhajan, we should be like fishes. And I was like, ooh, fishes? What does he mean by that? He said, yes, we should be like fishes. He said, if you see or stay on the top of the ocean, you see there are so many waves and there is so much friction and you're being tossed everywhere. He said, but if you are like a fish and you dive very, very deep It is very peaceful there. And he said, and the fisherman's net cannot catch you. He said it means the net of Maya will not catch you. So when you are chanting Harinam, when you are entering into the bhajans of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, when you are reading any of their books, he said we should dive very deep into their hearts, into their Harikatha, into these moods. He said because then Maya cannot attract you. There you will be safe. He said Sadhu Sangha is everything. Without Sadhu Sangha, what will we have? He said Krishna is like a bumblebee. Krishna goes from flower to flower to flower, collecting so much honey. He said the same with a bumblebee. It's going from flower to flower, collecting, collecting, collecting. He said if we ourselves go to billions of flowers and rub them together, we will never be able to make honey. He said it would be quite impossible. He said, but if you will follow that bee back to its beehive, there you will find all sweetness and rasa is there. He said, so where the Vaishnavas are, not like Krishna going from flower to flower, but where he is keeping his storehouse of nectar at the feet of Vaishnavas. Today we sang Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajana Anukul. The lotus feet of Guru, the foot dust, the foot bathing water, and the foodstuffs of those Vaishnavas are the most powerful substances in the entire universe. And that thing can be easily attained when we are praying sincerely for Vaishnava association. Even Krishna himself is leaving his storehouse of nectar there. Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj, he says there is something called Padma Madhu. And he said, we say, Shri Guru Charana Padma. He said, the lotus feet of Guru are like a lotus flower. And we have been beaten and abused by samsar. We are like a bee searching for honey, but we've gone to the Ketaki flower. And it has so many thorns. Thinking we're going there to get nectar, we become torn apart, our wings are torn, and we are suffering and suffering. At that time, we finally find the lotus flower, and there the lotus is cooling and soothing, and it can drink the sweet Padma Madhu, the sweet nectar coming from that lotus. And then our eyes can be opened. He began to speak about that Padma Madhu, and if you put it in your eyes, it clears all kinds of eye problems. He tells about this, and he says, this is why Shri Guru Charana Padma, why we are always at the lotus feet of Guru. They are not a material thing. Brahmaji did not create the lotus flower. He was born from that. So every time we say the lotus-like mouth, the lotus-like eyes, the lotus hands, the lotus feet, it's because it is not a creation of Brahma. It didn't even come into his mind. By the mercy of the Lord, these ideas and things came into his mind through his prayer. But he himself was born from that lotus. So where do we find that? Really, it's in the lotus of our heart. And what is in there is the eternal Jivatma that is Nitya Krishna Das. And these Vaishnavas nourish that mood in our heart. I wanted to read something. It's so quick. But it's okay? But I think it's very important. He said, Srila Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj, he said, when Krishna plays the flute, the trees begin to tremble. Because of that trembling, their flowers fall into Jamuna. Jamuna, hearing the sound of Krishna's flute, stops her course and turns toward that sound and flows toward Krishna. And she carries all of those flowers to Krishna's lotus feet. By anyhow, even indirectly, we must serve Krishna. This is very important. Jamuna Devi herself, we hear, she is offering her own self in the form of lotuses to Krishna. Even Krishna is stunned thinking about the beauty of Srimati Radhika. And there she is offering the lotuses of her own heart. and she becomes shy because she thinks he doesn't see me. But at that very same time, she is not only taking her own heart's treasure and offering it to Krishna, all of those flowers that have dropped into Jamuna, she has also carried them to offer them to Krishna's feet. Vaishnavas are like this. We are burning in the frying pan of this material world, as Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj says, I'm burning. But we know that those who are actually in real separation from Krishna, they are vancha kalpataru. They are like a very large wish-fulfilling tree standing in the burning heat of the sun. That sun is burning on them, but they are giving us shade, the shade of their lotus feet. They are burning in separation, and yet they are collecting us and offering us to the feet of their beloved. Even though they themselves are crying out, hey Devi, hey Radhe Vraj, no.
Hey Devi, hey Gaita.
No. Gurudev.
Ha Devi Kaku Bharat Gadgaraya Devacha. Yache Nipatya Bhuvidanda Varudbhakarti. Asya Prasadam Abudasya Janasya Kritva Gandharvike Nijagane Gananang Vide.
Our Gurudev used to sing this in every Mangala chant. I'm dying. If you do not accept me, I can give up my life. What is the use? Hey Devi Radhike, please give me your mercy. When we chant that prayer, it just sounds sweet. When he chants that prayer, it is the calling of his heart in separation. Like Raghunath Das Goswami and Vilap Kusmanjali, even though he's sitting there giving so much shiksha to the world, yet he's burning in deep separation. So, if I have a moment, the last thing that I would like to read today, because we're running out of time. Do you want to say something? Because I think it's important.
Continue.
I'm going to read this another day. I think it's important to give you a chance because he's so dear to your heart. I want to end by saying that one of the things that I learned from the association of Srila Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj was that when we feel our heart begin to melt, and we are really sincerely praying to our Guru Varg to keep us close to their lotus feet, that we should try to have some trust. When Srila Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj left this world, I felt very upset with Krishna. I thought, how could you do this? He was only in his 60s. And our Gurudev left in his 90s. So many left. But he was in his early 70s maybe. But he was young. And I thought, why did you bring him into my life and then rip him out so heavily? It was such a terror in my heart. And I was crying and I felt anger. I was like, why? Why did you give me this Vaishnava and then rip him away from me? And then I thought, because you made me understand that the Vaishnavas can make our hearts so soft, even without us understanding what they are doing. They enter inside and they begin to clean and they begin to nourish us. So when we find that association that is in the same mood as our Gurudev, who is following that and nourishing that, and we don't have a mood that, where is my Gurudev anymore? I don't recognize my Guru Varg. They're changing the Siddhanta, they're changing their teachings, they're making up things. When we no longer recognize our Gurudev, then we say, no, this is not my Guru Varg, this is not what my Gurudev gave. But when we find that safety place where we hear those sweet Harikathas and sweet tattvas of our Guru Varg, then we can open our hearts and honor those Vaishnavas wholeheartedly. And I learned that from his appearance and disappearance from my life. I'm sorry I took the whole time. I'm sorry.
Actually, there's never enough time to glorify Vaishnavas because their glories are unlimited. whenever any of our Guru Varga have made that endeavor, they actually curse themselves. What kind of audacity do I have that I think I can glorify someone whose glories are unlimited? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he tells in Krishna Sanghita, I believe, there's one shlok there, that I'm just like a particle of dust. And the idea that this particle of dust can absorb the ocean of the Absolute, this is like ludicrous. I'm such a fool that I think that I can absorb the ocean of the Absolute. The glories of the Vaishnavas are unlimited, and yet we still must make an endeavor, even though our endeavor may be feeble, because it is for our own benefit. If we do so, then all anarthas can be gradually removed and all auspiciousness can manifest in our hearts. After Sudevi spoke, she proved the point to me, again, what Gurudev said, very connected and very deep. There was a specific thing which occurred in our relationship with Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj. One thing that I noticed, actually, I want to mention this first, is that he was so humble, so soft, but humble. I mean, he was in his 70s. He was given the acharyaship of Sri Chaitanya mission from Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj and the co-acharya of that group, Srila Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Goswami Maharaj. They both signed documents that he would be the next acharya, how he was serving and everything. Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj, who is also the Shiksha Guru of our Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who used to come on parikrama with our Gurudev for years, Rachmando Parikrama. He also signed, did like legal signing over of everything. His temples, that Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj would be the next acharya of that mission. So after Srila Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj departed from this world, Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj accepted that seva. And also, Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, he performed a very interesting pastime, that for many years he was in a state of like a samadhi trance, where everyone thought that he was going to depart from this world at any moment. And because he was not functioning in the role of giving initiation, at that time they had actually already dug a samadhi pit for him. For Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj. They had already dug a pit, and he was still present, but in a state that they all thought he would leave at any moment. So it was for quite some time. And already Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj had been given the instruction by all of the seniors that you should continue this service because they have both given you this position. But after so many years, then suddenly Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj came out of that situation and he said, fill that hole, I'm going to go preaching. And then he traveled and preached for another 10 years around the world. So anyhow, Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj told us that when he was younger, Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj used to call him, come to me. And then he would, although Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj had so many sevas that he had to do, Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj was one of the only personalities that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada allowed and instructed to speak Krishna's pastimes, the intimate pastimes. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada would allow him and would instruct him to speak on those leelas, and he would speak on them with tears in his eyes. So this Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj, very, very deep-hearted, very rasik and bhavuk Vaishnava. And he would call young Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj to his room, come to see me, come to see me. He would come and he would say, come here, my boy. And he would put his head on his lap while he was petting his head. For 3 hours, 4 hours, he would be weeping and just telling Harikatha, Harikatha. And Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj told us, he said, I had to go to the toilet. I was so hungry. I had to do so many things, but I couldn't disappoint him by leaving. So I just had to stay there and just listen and accept. And Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj was filling him with so much sweet Harikatha. I feel very bereft that I was not able to tap him enough. He was like that nectar, maple syrup. We couldn't tap that amazing source enough to receive that nectar. But he was telling how Bhakti Jivanta Narada Maharaj would just speak constantly this Harikatha to him. One day I asked Sudevi some interesting questions. Because Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj was very, very kind, very sweet. Like we received a random phone call from him, not knowing, like Sudevi said, he didn't have our phone number. Where did he get our phone number from? He calls us and he says, "Do you love me?" I mean, what kind of... It put us in a very interesting... We're looking at each other like, I don't know, do we love him? I don't know. I mean, should we... And the way he was asking, we were like, if we don't say yes, maybe we'll break his heart. Yes, we love you. And he was so happy by that. One thing that he did by making us stay was interesting because we were in the process of making our tickets to Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. We were in the process of doing that. As he called us, it was like we were on the phone with another person who was in Australia, and we were making our tickets. We had our computers open, and we were in the process of doing it. And he calls up and says, "If you love me, you will change your tickets." And we were thinking, how can we do this? We have our
for like 5
seva.
days.
He said, just postpone. And we had never done anything like this before. We were like, what? Don't. He said, you have to change your tickets.
For me, do you love me?
For me, do you love me? Can you do this for me? And we were like, okay. And then we told the devotee.
No, we said it will cost hundreds of dollars more. And then he said, thank you.
It'll cost hundreds of dollars more. He's like, thank you. And that was it. Click. And we're like, what are we supposed to do? So we told the devotee in Australia, I think they were on the beach making our tickets, and we told them, please postpone the tickets for at least another week. And they're like, okay. And what happened was, because we postponed the tickets for a week, it was also postponed for our trip to Fiji and New Zealand. Just at the time that we were supposed to arrive in Fiji, the worst cyclone, Category 5, that has hit in this century, in the last 100 years, hit Fiji, and right where we were going to go. Literally wiping the place off the map, that particular place. It had hit there, and the devotees told us, it's better you don't come, we're all just trying to survive. Just afterward, yeah, they told us, we're just trying to survive here now. There's just mosquitoes everywhere. There's no electricity, no running water, no power. It's difficult to get food. We're all trying to survive. It's better you don't come now. And we thought, my God, with one small request, he accomplished so many things. He took us out of harm's way. He kept us in India. He allowed us to... He accomplished so many tasks. Anyhow, one day I asked Sudevi a question. I was asking her about different Vaishnavas. You know, do you trust this one? Do you trust that one? Because, you know, we grew up in the society that we grew up in. We saw so many persons in the name of Guru falling down, and sannyasis, and really also experienced so much ourselves in the name of bhakti, which was completely anything to do with, or anything but bhakti. Anything other than bhakti. So we're very weary. And so I was asking her, do you trust this one? She was like, yeah, something. How about this one? Yeah, so... Do you trust this one? Do you trust that one? And then finally I came to Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj. Do you trust Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj? She said no. And I said, what? I said, what? Why would you say no? I mean, he's so nice. She said, I don't know how it is, but I had my heart closed. After Gurudev's departure, she's like, I had my heart closed. I didn't want to let anyone in my heart, but he's a thief. He's a thief. Somehow he's so tricky. He was able to get in there and steal my heart. So I don't trust him. And I realized her saying that was actually a glorification. That somehow he was able to enter our hearts through love and affection. And he was also encouraging us in our relationship with our Gurudev to have strong faith in the teachings of our Gurudev and to follow him no matter what. And he was so humble that if we would bring something up, now, mind you, we're much, much younger than him, very junior, we're like nobodies. And we would bring something up because our Gurudev said something. Like Sudevi, she brought up this point to him about, I don't understand why you're singing this Hey Govinda Rako Sharana, which is the mood of Dvarka, and we're in Vrindavan during Kartik, and you're reading Radha Rasa Shuddha Nidhi, and we're singing Jai Radha Madhava, and then you sing this Hey Govinda Rakho Sharana. In his humility, first thing he did was told us his whole story, and he was weeping when he was telling it. And then he actually made a bhajan with that same basic foundation of that one, but in Vrindavan mood, and presented it to us. And he was almost like adjusting. We said, well, our Gurudev said this, and you said this. He said, okay, then I'm giving up what I said, and I will accept what your Gurudev said. And we were like, my God, what kind of humility. Most people in their 70s will not change for anything. And he was willing to, as an Acharya Guru, but still, his humility was such. He considered our Gurudev. He said, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, I see as my Shiksha Guru. Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj is my bosom friend. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he had so much respect and honor for him. He kept a massive picture of him, just opposite from where he would sit in his, when he would sit on his own Vyasasana, he could see our Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada. And when we arrived there, we were thinking, my God, this is our place.
We've come home.
We've come home. And he was so sweet, loving, and accommodating, very affectionate. And if I had any question for him, one thing I really appreciated is he was so simple and so honest. He shared a lot of very intimate and very strong things with me. He said, don't think that I don't see everything. He said, I see everything. He said, but in the past, whenever I've spoken something, then so many problems came. People actually physically were trying to kill him. They had this terrible plan, and they were trying to kill him, but he was saved from that. He said that our Gurudev told him, never mind them. Continue doing as you're doing, continue serving. Don't mind them. So our Gurudev was very strong and powerful. He used to be a police lieutenant, and certainly in Aprakat Braj, he's also in that court of Srimati Radhika taking such a position. We've seen his mood. Some people think that our Gurudev is just all soft and light and like this. No. Pujyapat Bhaktivedanta Maharaj and others told us how strong and how powerful just the sound of his name, and everyone would basically begin operating in tip-top shape, getting everything together and doing what they should be doing. So he was not a lightweight. Anyhow, Srila Bhakti Kalma Govinda Maharaj was so affectionate. If I had any question for him, immediately he would answer it. One time we were talking about the calendar, the Vaisnava calendar. And these were important questions of the day. And I asked him, so how do you follow? He said, wherever the sun rises, when the sun rises, wherever I am in the world, then I follow according to that local calendar. And he said, I know some are changing the teachings of your Gurudev. And then he said these words. Mind you, he's from Orissa, from Puri, and there has been long-standing disputes between the two sectors of Vaishnavas. But he said, this idea, changing the calendar to only come out of Bengal, he said, this is Bengali domination, he said. And I was like, ooh, like this. He said, no, we follow as our Guru Varga before us have followed. When they went outside of India, how did our Gurudev follow? Very simply. Wherever he was, according to the local titi, he followed. And then he instructed us to do the same. So Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj gave so many instructions about so many things in these kinds of circumstances. And he told me a lot of personal, intimate details of his life with anecdotes and everything. And it was quite eye-opening, and at the same time I was thinking, why is he telling me these things? Why is he telling me these things? But he was so kind and affectionate. Even once, it was his Guru Maharaj's appearance day, and I don't know much about Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, so I gave a general class based on some of the things I heard from our Gurudev and also from him. We sang this bhajan, E Baro Kuruna Koro Vaishnava Goshai. I gave a general class. And afterward, he was like, oh, your class. He said, I heard everything. It was so good. And he was just so kind and affectionate and encouraging and personable. Very, very simple. Very simple. If you saw his room downstairs where he was staying before, didn't he used to keep something for the Mice, something.
I don't remember, but I remember he had a tiny little picture of Gurudev.
He had a very little picture of Gurudev. So Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj was very simple, very sweet, very accessible. And especially for Gurudev's disciples, our Gurudev's disciples, it was like he adjusted. He saw that our Gurudev already gave us a foundation in certain things. For some of his, I remember many of his own disciples came from different places from around India. And he gave a very simple, heavy class. Don't eat meat. You should follow like this. And then Gurudev's disciples would come and he would speak Radha Rasa Shuddha Nidhi to us. Such a beautiful way. So he was opening up in different ways that even his own disciples said, we've never heard him speak like this. How he was so excited to be able to share. But I don't know what it was that he took such a keen liking to myself and Sudevi. And at that time also Madhu Mangal, he was with us. And he just lathered Madhu Mangal with so much affection. Madhu Mangal was going through a very, very difficult time.
Horrible divorce.
Horrible separation. He was completely devastated at the time. And who was there to hold him, to pick him up?
Literally held him.
He was holding him while he was crying and just petting him and saying, you're my boy, you can stay with me, I will take care of you can be in the temple. How much affection he was giving, how much sweet Hari Katha he was giving. So Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj also was very accessible by phone. So we had his phone number and we would tell different devotees. I remember telling my father, oh, you should give him a call to speak with him. So my father's like, really? You just call him like that? I said, yeah, just give him a call. Here's his number. So my father gives him a phone call. And he's like, Radhe, Radhe. And my father's like, Radhe, Radhe. He's like, and then he just starts telling him, you should chant and remember the sweet pastimes of Krishna. Very sweet and accessible to anyone and everyone. In fact, we had planned to go on the tour of London with him and just be the kirtaniyas for him and travel with him everywhere that particular year, but he ended up having some difficulty with his health. I think he had some case of diabetes and other things. So he did not come and travel. And so we kept in touch with him a little bit. And we called him from Las Vegas. We were doing preaching programs in Las Vegas. And we all called him together. Dandavat Maharaj, how are you? We heard you had some difficulty. And he said, yes, something. And then he just began telling us, he's like, you should always chant.
I said, I'm so worried about you. And then he
Shout
said,
it loud.
I said, Maharaj, we're so worried about you. He said, oh, then you should chant and chant more.
More Harinam. Chant more Harinam. This was his reaction to us saying we were so worried for him. And then when we went directly from Las Vegas to one other temple, because Sudevi already mentioned it indirectly, I'm not going to tell where we were at the time. But when we found out that Maharaj left, actually he told me some very interesting things about some of the persons who were around him at that time, that, it wasn't necessarily the most favorable situation. But still, he always continued just chanting and remembering the pastimes of Krishna.
He had no enemies, even though others were envious of him.
He actually used these words. He said, I know they are my enemies, that they are using me for photo opportunities. He told me this. So he didn't feel that any enmity toward anyone. He did not want to speak anything. He said, I'm aware of everything that's going on, but I don't want to speak about these things. I just want to remember Krishna.
They're asking for the bhajan. I thought
so
maybe I could show it.
This is where Maharaj signed Sudevi's book. Oh, my Supreme Lord, you are the rainbow of every storm of my life. Swami B.K. Govinda, signed November 24th, 2015, Sri Dham, Vrindavan.
And then the other side is his, you can see it. And then on this side is his bhajan. Maybe you can take a screenshot, I don't know. But that was the last thing.
It was quite devastating for us when he departed, because we had no idea that he would it wasn't like when it was very quick. We knew his health wasn't so good, but not that bad, not that poor. And we had just begun our relationship with him, and then it was pulled away so quick from us. And so it was very heartbreaking, very difficult, but he also managed to lodge himself very deep in our hearts. Not because that's what he wanted, but because of his sweetness. We realized that he was giving things. It was spontaneous from his heart. He would just, as he was speaking about Krishna, he would also spontaneously burst out with Govinda Damodar Madhaveti. And we were scratching our heads going, but I thought only Gurudev was doing that. And then we discovered and realized, oh, Srila Gurudev was also hearing from the same source. Srila Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj was hearing from that same source. He said, for him, Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj, too much love, too much love. So much love and affection he had for his Shiksha Guru. He felt like he is my everything, my heart and my soul. Did you want me to sing that, or?
No.
It's getting late, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
So it's getting very late. But as you saw, Sudevi just spoke completely spontaneously from her heart. There's actually so many beautiful kathas he told.
Also, Vichitra Didi has a whole notebook of his things.
So many notebooks are there.
We need to get like little bumblebees all of the nectar from Vichitri's years and years of association with Gurudev, Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj, Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj. She has tons of notes.
Now we've just spoken how sweet Srila Bhakti Kama Govinda Maharaj was. But also for his own disciples, he was not a lightweight, only not just sweet and like accommodating. So he was taking the role of shiksha for those who were coming from other gurus to hear from him. And there was many different devotees who were coming to hear from him, from different gurus. But for his own disciples, I remember how he would be like, Madan! He would be really heavy. What are you doing? Oh, like very strong. But Madan would take it. And he was learning from that. And he became very responsible very quickly under the guidance of his Gurudev. And we also saw how Purnima, how Kishore, they received Diksha from, and Harinam. I don't know, Kishore, did he receive Harinam and Diksha from?
He received, I think he got Harinam from Gurudev. And
so he received Harinam from our Gurudev and Diksha from Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj. And he was quite young. Purnima was young. I remember it was, we went to observe his appearance day. And these kids were in there for hours. Little kids. But to serve him, they were there for hours. Doing what? Cleaning a male Indian toilet. It's one of the worst, horriblest things you could ever do. But with a smile on their face.
Because no one likes to
serving.
It just, so it doesn't sound bad, because no one likes to clean the toilets.
I've already told that before.
Oh, okay.
Even in India, even the toilet cleaners don't like to clean the toilets. Anyway, we cleaned up everything. We scraped the walls, polished the whole place down. These kids, their mother, it was myself, Sudevi, and someone else. We all went there and we were just cleaning. And it was amazing to see how they were serving.
This is from Vichitri. Maybe you can read it and then we can chant.
So Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj spoke. Many times Krishna comes to Radharani in disguise.
From Vichitri.
This is Vichitra Didi's notes. As a barber, bangle seller, etc. Vrinda Devi is telling Krishna to shave his head and take a danda. Krishna did this and took sannyas mantra from Purnamasi, who tells Krishna, and I just saw you handing me the thing, who tells Krishna to do parikrama of Nikunjavan and chant Radha's name. Lalita and Vishaka are surprised to see this beautiful black, like a diamond, sannyasi. They invite him to sit down and read Radha's palm. He says, I'm a brahmachari. I don't touch any lady. I can only look at a lady's face. Radha lifted her veil and they looked in each other's eyes. Lalita and Vishaka became very angry with Krishna for this, accusing him of being a cheater. In Puri, Jagannath rides in a chariot, but in Braj, Radha and Krishna walk. So the dust is very powerful. Here the Vaishnavas use the dust to purify themselves. In Vraja, every speck of dust is purifying. Vrindavan is Chintamani Dham. What Vraja gives cannot be gotten in any other Dham. I remember him saying quite often, Vrindavan is the capital of the entire universe. And who is the queen of Vrindavan? Srimati Radhika is the queen of Vrindavan. So Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj, he was telling so much sweet Harikatha with so many sweet details also. It was also like showing what our Gurudev was giving. Sometimes he would turn that gemstone on its side and show how the light reflects off some other facets. And Srila Bhakti Vigyam Bharati Maharaj also did that for us, showing this side. Look how the light is shining. How beautiful is this gem.
Can you really quick just tell about why Mother Yashoda was so angry about that pot? Because this is important.
Okay, so when he told Damodar Lila, it's quite interesting.
And then we'll do a Hare Krishna Kirtan.
Srila Bhakti Vigyam Bharati Maharaj explained that why is it sometimes when a pure devotee is telling any Krishna Lila, one pure devotee will tell the Lila and with this detail, and even if they themselves will tell the same Lila another time, you might hear a different detail. How is it possible? Because when they're speaking Krishna Katha is manifesting to them from wherever Krishna is performing his pastimes in any universe, which he's doing simultaneously in every universe. So sometimes it's manifesting from here or here or here, and so some details, extra details or slight different details are added, and this can be known as Kalpa Bhed. And we only accept those details which are approved by Guru Sadhu Shastra. Well, he heard everything from Bhakti Jivendra Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who was approved by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So he was telling that why was Mother Yashoda so angry? She knows that Krishna is naughty. Krishna is always stealing butter. But this time she got very angry and upset and chased him with a stick. Why? Because when she put Krishna down to go and save the milk, Krishna became very angry. What? My mother stopped me from drinking her milk to go and save something else? He became upset, so he took a pestle, means like a small stone for grinding spices, and he threw this at her yogurt pot.
At the bottom. What
had happened was, that day, she decided that I will make butter for Krishna myself. He's going to every other's gopi's house, but he's not taking from my house. I will make it myself. So that day she went and found the most fragrant cow that gives the most fragrant milk. There's different cows that have different flavors. There's chocolate milk, vanilla milk, lotus flower milk, mango milk, like milkshakes. No. So different cows, they have some different flavors and different sweetnesses. So she found that cow that gives the most fragrant milk. She milked the cow herself, brought that milk home, and made that milk into yogurt, and then she was churning that yogurt herself in a very special pot that was an heirloom. It belonged to her mother-in-law, and her mother-in-law, and her mother-in-law. For 5 generations it had been passed down because that pot would make the best yogurt and the best butter. So this was her intention. So she was churning that yogurt. And that butter pot, when she went to save the milk that was boiling over in the kitchen, at that time Krishna broke that pot, the heirloom pot, 5 generations. And she became really upset. So she was chased, she was following his footprints. Actually, Gurudev said that he broke the bottom of the pot. Now, from the pressure of all the yogurt from on top, it was just squirting everywhere, and Krishna was watching. Yay! Yogurt is going everywhere. He was so happy. And then it was everywhere, and he got his feet prints in it as he went running to escape that. And then Krishna's mind is so chanchal, he can't even think for the next moment. Suddenly he saw there's a pot hanging from the rafters in the storeroom, and he's thinking, butter! Like just like that, one moment to the next, butter! So then he used a grinding mortar. He stood up on that grinding mortar and was trying to take that butter to feed to the monkeys and the crows and his friends. But also he's a thief. So Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj said, the thieves traditionally in India, so the police could not catch them, would smear oil on their arms. So when the police would grab them, they could easily get away. Krishna knew this somehow. So he took the butter and he smeared it on his arms so that his mother would have a very difficult time catching him. These kind of details, Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj was telling us, and they were so sweet, so juicy, rasik, so wonderful, and we were completely mesmerized. In fact, that very day, after hearing from him, we came home and we tried it on our own arms, and sure enough, you can't grab someone who has oil on their arms. So,
for all the thieves out there.
Ujabad Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Divyat Tirobhav Maha Mahotsava ki jai. Please forgive me for that chocolate milk comment. That was just an idea that so many cows have so many different flavors of milk. Oh, someone just wrote chocolate milk with a happy face.
Okay, shut up.
Divyat Tirobhav Maha Mahotsava ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhanu Gauriya Guruvarga ki jai. Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All of you devotees ki jai. Thank you for staying with us and not leaving us. We're going to give darshan. Look, they have a new outfit, so don't leave. We're going to do a quick Hare Krishna, and then darshan of Shri Radha Vino Bihari, Sachinandan Gaura Hari. Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Madhavati ki Ekadashi ki jai, Pujapad Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Tariya Tirubha Mahamahotsav ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Nitai Gaura Devanande, Hari Hari Govinda Dharmadhaviti, Govinda Dharmadhaviti, Govinda Dharmadhaviti, Govinda Dharmadhaviti. Bolo Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe. Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe. Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe. Shri Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Shyam Gaura Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo.
So thank you all very much for being with us today
Thank
and
you.
for giving us the opportunity to remember the beautiful glories of Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj and our Guru Varga, especially on this day, the occasion of the anniversary of his disappearance. And thank you all for engaging us in our Guru Seva. As our Srila Gurudev told us, even after I'm no longer on this sphere, I want that you continue traveling and preaching my mission everywhere on my behalf. So because of you, we're able to continue our seva. So we are indebted to all
Thank
of
you
you.
so much for joining us and engaging us in our seva.
Dandavat Pranam,
Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Radhe,
Dear
Radhe.
beautiful, beautiful family of Vaishnavas, thank you so much for joining us.
Radha Vino Bihari Ju ki
Jai.
jai.
Oh, oops, sorry. Jai.
Jai.
Jai.